Star Trek Insurrection, Jonathan Frakes' second Star Trek directorial effort. And this might surprise some of you, but I find this even better than First Contact. The plot of the film links in with the title, Insurrection, which means rebellion, as in the crew of the Enterprise are rebelling against Starfleet and the Federation. Why, you might ask? Well, a mission by Starfleet to observe the peaceful Baku people goes wrong when something happens to Data and he goes insane, rebelling against the mission and stealing a shuttlecraft. After being rescued and returned to normal by Picard and Worf, it soon transpires that the mission to observe is actually the beginning of a conspiracy between the Federation and the Sonar people to steal rejuvenating properties of the Baku. Knowing this is just wrong, the crew of the Enterprise rebel against Starfleet and fight to protect the Baku. The overall reason why I like this film is that, well, it's different. It's different from the usual action-packed Star Trek film, as it goes in just a completely different approach and shows that not all good guys are willing to obey their masters in films. The plot and direction by Jonathan Frakes work so well together. Frakes understands the plot perfectly and perfectly decides what to put where, whether it's going to be an action moment, a peaceful moment, a comedic moment, or anything. The best comedic moment in this film would have to be, in an attempt to calm Data down, Picard and Worf singing a song from Gilbert and Sullivan. A British star is a soaring soul, as free as a mountain bird. That sort of thing. It's also interesting as to how the Baku's rejuvenating properties and their planet makes the crew of the Enterprise relive some of their younger year moments. For instance, Worf's hair growing back. The acting is superb as well. Patrick Stewart hits the spot yet again as Jean-Luc Picard, the captain who has been through so much in his reign in the Next Generation, from being transformed into a Borg, to his many encounters with Q, and now having to rebel against the very Federation he's sworn to protect. Since this film is sort of more light-hearted than First Contact, there are several funny moments in there. I've already mentioned a British tar singer song, but there are several more, including just how Riker and Troy's relationship grows, and how for most of the film Riker is shown as he was in the first season, beardless. So overall, as I say, I like Insurrection. It's a more daring entry in the Star Trek franchise, in which it shows rebellion against the very Federation the Enterprise has sworn to protect, and it shows a plot that hasn't been done before, not as much action as you'd expect for a Trek film. But I like it. And now we come to Star Trek Nemesis, the final entry in the Next Generation franchise, and the tagline says it all: a generation's final journey. And I absolutely love this film. I don't see why people hate it so much. It's fun, it's energetic, it's action-packed. I thought that's what people would have wanted in a Trek film. As I said with the tagline, a generation's final journey begins, this film sees the end of the Enterprise crew, as Commanders Riker and Troy are leaving the ship for the Titan. The final mission begins with an energy reading being detected by the Enterprise, and upon arriving there, they discover the remnants and remains of an android, very similar to Data, but a version from before Data called B4. Following this, the Enterprise is sent on a diplomatic mission to Romulus, as new Praetor Shinzon wants peace with the Federation. But through a surprising turn of events, it transpires that Shinzon is not a Romulus Praetor, but a Remus Praetor, and Remus has been treated brutally and terribly by Romulus, its twin planet. Through another chain of events, it transpires that Shinzon is actually a younger copy of Picard, created by Romulans. But Shinzon is dying, and he desperately needs Picard's blood to live. Realising that Shinzon living on would have massive consequences for the Federation, particularly in Shinzon's research of failure on energy, the Enterprise is sucked into one last deadly battle, not only to kill Picard's younger self, but save the Federation at all costs. Tom Hardy is in this film as Shinzon, and he does an amazing job as the Praetor. He fits the role perfectly of the alien who will stop at nothing to survive death and will do anything to take control of the galaxy and the Federation with his fatal failure on energy. Unlike the last two films, this film was directed by Stuart Bard, who is a major film editor. He has edited some amazing action films in his time, and he's even directed a few films himself, including a sequel to The Fugitive and Executive Decision, starring Kurt Russell. Here for Nemesis, he does an amazing job. As I say, action sequences are an important part of Star Trek, and by hell does this film have an action sequence. There is a battle in an area where Starfleet cannot be communicated, and this is where Shinzon takes the opportunity to attack the fleeing Enterprise with his warship, the Scimitar. The action sequences, or the battle even, is just absolutely long. It takes about 20 minutes to half an hour of the film. It's all towards the end, and it's all just explosive, just bang, 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 boom, 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 boom. And it also shows the hostilities between the Federation and Romulus subsiding, as the two put their hostilities to one side to fight the Scimitar, and it all links in with possible peace with Romulus. I honestly don't see why people think this sparked the end of Star Trek. This is a solid action thriller with amazing action sequences, and it is perfect Star Trek. For me, Star Trek started to end when Enterprise started to go downhill. Shame they couldn't save it with season 4, but hey, maybe it was a good thing it ended, because that way we wouldn't have had the reboot with J.J. Abrams directing, and that wouldn't have sparked the whole reboot series, which is just amazing. So overall, this is going to surprise you, but I think Nemesis is the best of the Next Generation film series. But I'm going to go through all the films, all 12, and decide which order they go in. Here's how I'm going to rate the films. I'm going to say which film is in which order, and say a line that I think links or sums the film up in that line. Star Trek 3, The Search for Spock. So predictable, even a 5-year-old with no knowledge of Star Trek whatsoever could sum the film up. Star Trek Generations. Not good, but not bad either. Watch the Lifeform song, that's a funny moment. Star Trek 6, The Undiscovered Country. A tiny bit overrated, but still fun, even if the Cold War allusions are a bit unnecessary. Star Trek 1, The Motion Picture. Bit slow, but it's a good steady start to the film series. Star Trek 5, The Final Frontier. Definitely undeserved of its title of worst Star Trek film. Very funny, has some silly moments, but it's still worth the watch. Star Trek First Contact. A solid sci-fi horror, though some bits aren't as scary as they thought to be, and there can be too many action sequences. Star Trek 4, The Voyage Home. Light-hearted and very funny, a solid ending to the Genesis trilogy. Star Trek Insurrection. A daring and different path from how a Star Trek film would work, but still a lot of fun. Star Trek Nemesis. A very solid sci-fi action thriller and a worthy ending to the film series of the next generation. Star Trek II: The Wrath of Khan. Solid, action-packed, and with a very surprising ending. Starts the beginning of a very solid Genesis trilogy. Star Trek, the 2009 reboot. A very solid reboot that reignites the Star Trek franchise with comedic moments and action moments, as well as many twists and turns. Star Trek Into Darkness, with even more twists and turns than the reboot, and very solid action moments and comedic moments. And so, we bid an end to Star Trek month. Hope you all enjoyed, and tune in next month for when we start by respecting the dead with Saving Private Ryan.